every day those haters have something different about China, something new. Today, China is worse than you thought.
We joke a lot on this channel about people being black-bagged in China, but the reality is no joke. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. Did you know YouTube has been secretly unsubscribing people from China Uncensored?
Did you know this guy is from a media that belongs to a cult called Falun Gong? Yes, it is a cult that's forbidden in China, actually, because it's a cult.
I've been making a big push to get to 2 million subscribers. There's only about 30,000 more to go. But I've been hearing from a lot of you that YouTube repeatedly has unsubscribed you.
No.
I'm sure China Uncensored would already be much bigger if it weren't for YouTube's CCP-loving shenanigans. So,
YouTube. Do you think YouTube loves the Communist Party of China?
if you're watching and you aren't subscribed, please
subscribe to my channel, please. Please. He's already has almost 2 million.
And if you already have subscribed, make sure you're still subscribed. When we get to 2 million, we'll do a special live stream for you, where we'll do something we've never done before.
Tell the truth about China, I guess.
So again, hit that subscribe button. And now, on with the show.
Let's go.
Now, you might think being in prison sucks, and it certainly
Maybe,
is horrible
right?
in the U.S., but not in China. In China, prison time is a glorious experience that betters you as a human being.
Who said that?
Just ask Chinese state-run media. In China, prisons transform criminals into law-abiding citizens.
I hope so.
And they provide inmates with all the resources they need to excel once they're released back into Chinese society. Take Qingpu Prison on the outskirts of Shanghai, which also houses many of China's foreign prisoners. The prison has teamed up with a university to provide education to inmates. Right? Of course, this likely includes Xi Jinping thought, but hey, a bad education is better than no education, question mark? It also hosts...
Right. No, but actually good, really good is the United States that has the biggest prison population in the world. Like 50% are African American people. But yeah, it's okay, right? They have more people in jail in the United States than in China. And China has 1.4 billion people.
Activities
but
and
somehow,
things like
China is better.
Jade carving, embroidery, and bamboo carving.
Oh, that's nice.
It's like a...
also, it's nice and interesting. They're not working for free, right? The prisons are not selling their workforce for free. That's amazing.
Summer camp. There are even Christmas parties. It's like a winter camp. In fact, it's so festive that the inmates at Qingpu just can't wait to share the prison's Christmas spirit.
This is the card Florence discovered, with a message inside which read, "We are foreign prisoners in Shanghai Qingpu Prison, China, forced to work against our will. Please help us and notify human rights organization."
Well, that
for sure, this is for real. For sure. I was there. Actually. I was the prison guard. I saw the guy writing this card, this Christmas card.
It's Christmassy.
For sure.
Only they're less like Santa and more like his enslaved elves. The Christmas card with the plea for help popped up in the UK in 2019. And it turned out that Christmas cards were just one of many products that inmates at Qingpu were reportedly forced to work on. There are actually so many accounts of forced labor in Chinese prisons.
Man, you are from the United States. What are you talking about? They tried to pass a law in Massachusetts allowing inmates to sell or donate their organs to reduce the years in jail. The governor of Arizona said if it stops, for some reason, stops the forced labor in prisons, the state will go broke. That's the United States. You're crazy, man.
That it appears to be a widespread feature of the Chinese prison system. And they're not kidding when they call it forced labor. One former inmate at Qingpu told The Guardian that if he refused, he would be punished, barred from reducing his prison sentence, making phone calls.
Sounds like the United States.
Home or worse. So serving time in a prison in China isn't exactly the educational holiday the Chinese state media have tried to make it out to be. Yet, there is another kind of confinement system in China that has recently come under discussion. And by comparison, it makes Chinese prison time sound like an all-inclusive vacation in Cancun. It's called residential surveillance at a designated location, also known as the RSDL system.
House arrest?
It was actually introduced in 2013, which coincidentally is the same year that Xi Jinping officially came to power in China. While RSDL might originally have been intended as a niche system for those suspects who are not suitable for ordinary detention for one reason or another, under Xi's...
So he's house arrest, right? That's what you're talking about, house arrest. But in China, secret RSDE jail,
guidance, it's grown into a monster.
A monster.
Xi's raised more monsters than a Pokemon trainer, a kaiju wrangler, and Kris Jenner.
I think, so I was reading about this guy. He really liked Chinese culture. I think some Chinese man broke his heart, and that's why he's a hater like that. Because he's from the United States. And he's saying all these things like, man, do you have a mirror at home?
RSDL is truly the stuff of Orwellian nightmare. For detainees, it starts out brutally from the get-go, as one Chinese woman named Wang Yu told the Spain-based NGO Safeguard Defenders about the day she was snatched. I tried to phone for help, but before anyone could answer, someone had already broken through the door and was instantly upon me. The light from his headlamp flashed into my face as he spoke, "Don't move," or from the Beijing Public Security Bureau. After being black hooded, detainees are taken away usually to a black site. Many of these sites are located on the outskirts of China's major cities. At the black
It's a black site that everybody knows where it is. They even have a 3D drawing for inside of the black site.
sites, they're put into
Have you
individual...
heard about Guantanamo? Guantanamo is a place in Cuba. And this place in Cuba has a prison of the United States. There's people from Pakistan arrested in 2001. They're still arrested there in Guantanamo. Right? What do you want to talk about China, man?
rooms designed to completely isolate them from the outside world, where covered windows
Man,
and
this
the
is bigger than a lot of apartments in Manhattan.
constant burn of harsh fluorescent light makes it impossible to distinguish night from day or get a sense of the passing of time. Oh, and everything in the room is padded down and covered in soft material to prevent any suicides. Because that would be sad if the CCP didn't get to kill them themselves. But detainees' only interaction is with guards and interrogators who are constantly watching either from inside the room or from one of the many surveillance cameras installed to cover every angle. The daily routine in RSDL often consists of 3 square meals, an hour of exercise, and a solid 8 hours of sleep to keep inmates rested and refreshed.
So you mean they have 3 meals and they can sleep 8 hours? So that's so bad, right?
Just kidding. It's hours of abuse with guards threatening the loved ones of detainees, beating them up, and subjecting detainees to stress positions. This abuse is supplemented by hours of interrogations, and depending on how those go, the abuse is adjusted accordingly. As one former detainee, Tang Zhishun, explained, during the interrogation sessions, if I didn't say what they wanted to hear, they would punish me.
That's how it works.
For example, they might not allow me to blink my eyes. They might force me to sit for long periods on the criminal's tiger chair, or force me to stand in my cell for the whole day, even when I was too weak to stand and would repeatedly fall down.
The jokes aside, that's normal everywhere. Even in Brazil, it's the same. Doesn't mean it's right, but that's how it works, unfortunately. Should not work here, should not work like that in the US, and should not be like this in Brazil.
At the same time, detainees are often forced to take unknown drugs every day. These mysterious drugs have reportedly made detainees' brains feel foggy, dulled their minds, made their muscles hurt, and
I would like to know who is the source of all this, because he didn't say it yet. He's just showing some screenshots, but no source.
Caused blurry vision. So they are being subjected to torture, pure and simple. And it will go on until interrogators are satisfied with the number and nature of forced confessions.
Man, again, you're from the United States. The government said it's okay to torture people to get information.
Detainees. Once interrogators have the confessions they want, detainees are either released or transferred to a detention center to be formally arrested.
I think you guys should send him photos of Abu Ghraib, the prison in Iraq.
That's right. After all this, they haven't even been formally arrested. By then, they might have been stuck in the hell of the RSDL system for up to 6 months, during which time family and friends have no idea where they are or what's happened to them. Hence the title of this detailed report. On the bright side, this is probably
Detailed report. And then there's an image, a random image. We need more information, man. That's not how it works. You're supposed to be a journalist.
great for China's missing person poster printers industry.
That's a white person. That's not Chinese person.
Now, but before we start condemning the ones running the system and branding the ones that allow it to operate as horrible people, it's important to remember that RSDL is only used against those suspected of endangering national security, terrorist activities, or major criminal acts of bribery. So we're talking about hardcore criminals here, intent on spreading death and destruction. You know, supervillains like human rights lawyers, human rights activists, girlfriends of human rights activists, and most nefarious of all, Canadian coffee shop owners. Yes, if such evil figures were allowed to roam wild without having been tortured, China and the world would never be safe. Now, RSDL
Julian Assange sent you hugs.
is not a new system. As I pointed out earlier, it's been around as long as Xi has been in power, since 2013, which feels like forever, probably because his leadership is a complex form of torture in of itself. But little attention was paid to the RSDL system in the first few years because not a lot of people were detained and disappeared into its black sites. But that has changed dramatically, with as many as 100,000 per year estimated to have gone through RSDL.
So official data is scarce, as the China Judgment Online database of verdicts only includes cases leading to a verdict trial. Many cases never reach this stage. The real number is therefore significantly higher. So they don't even know. They don't have data.
in recent years.
High estimates.
100,000 a year. That's about one every 6 minutes.
All
given
those videos of, most of those haters videos are like this. They don't have data, they make up a lot of things, and it's always like if this, if that.
Treatment that detainees receive while in RSDL, it's not surprising that they emerge physically and mentally traumatized, while some don't emerge at all. Back in May, for example, it was reported that a tech company manager named Xing Yanjun died while detained in the RSDL system in the Inner Mongolia region of northern China. The police informed Xing's family of his death months after he disappeared, but the family did not accept the explanation that Xing had hanged himself. It does sound unlikely that a detainee in RSDL died from hanging himself in a 24/7 surveilled room designed to prevent suicides, and not from mysterious drugs or repeated beatings that are generously handed out at the black sites.
Yeah, you need to investigate why he died. Yes, of course.
The suspicious death of Xing subsequently sparked a surge of discussion on the Chinese social media platform Weibo, with many people calling for an end to the RSDL system altogether.
Oh, so you are telling me that people in China, they can protest on the internet. Okay. They're right to do it.
Which is brave, since speaking out against the government is a great way to wind up in an RSDL. RSDL is so reviled in China that lawyers and law professors have actually dared to come forward to call for an end to it. Criminal defense lawyer Hao Chen declared last month that he has never seen a normal instance of RSDL.
What does that mean?
One of Hao's clients ended up spending 2 years in RSDL, and now every time he visits the client at a detention center, they bring him out in a wheelchair. Hao called the RSDL system a scourge on his profession and said that he'd be relieved when it's dead and gone. A law professor at Sichuan University mirrored that sentiment when he called RSDL an evil system.
Where are those quotes? Where's the source? Where are those quotes?
Just as an aside, when was the last time anyone heard from Hao or that law professor? It's not just within China that stark criticism has been directed at RSDL. The UN Committee Against Torture has called for the immediate repeal of the system, and UN human rights procedures have repeatedly condemned the system as enforced disappearances, according to international law, and noted the heightened risks of torture within it. Of course, the UN isn't angry enough to kick China off its Human Rights Council over this, but thanks for the strongly worded letter, I guess.
Again, you're from the United States, man. Your country killed over 100,000 kids in Iraq. Kids. Iraq only. If you talk about Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos is the most bombed country in history. Laos. What people from Laos did to the US? Nothing. It's still your country bombed it. And then we have Koreas, and we have Africa. And you want to talk about human rights in China? Really?
And besides the horror and immorality of a system like RSDL, it's also not an effective way to get the truth out of people. It's a well-established fact that torture is an ineffective interrogation tool. Because the application of physical, mental, and psychological pressure forces victims of torture to say or confess to anything just to end the painful experience.
That's the reason why they asked the United States government to condemn torture, and they didn't. They said,
which
yes,
for the CCP is exactly the point. So if it doesn't work in terms of bringing criminals to justice, the international community opposes it, and the Chinese people working within the criminal justice system hate it, why was
international community opposes, like, I don't know, I think people from Angola are worried about more important things, right?
RSDL not abolished years ago? It's because it still serves the interests of the ruling Chinese Communist Party. It has essentially become a system of state-sanctioned kidnappings that the CCP can use to intimidate and
every other country.
Punish those that fight for a freer and more democratic.
Which again doesn't mean it's right. It's right, but yeah.
China. That explains why so many legal scholars, human rights activists, and human rights lawyers pass through RSDL. If it's the case that bad guys get locked up when good guys are in charge, then it must also follow that good guys get locked up when bad guys are in charge. So, as I said at the beginning, YouTube is throwing every hurdle that...
stop whining, man. If you want to follow my channel, not his channel, and that China is worse than he thought because he doesn't live in China, I guess, so he cannot really see for himself.